UFC 13, you won the whole tournament. Any memories of that? I know you broke your hand, and I believe that's the one where you beat Tito Ortiz.
Yeah. Anyways, like I said, I just went back in, fought. I figured, I had enough skills. I could work around a broken hand. It's like I worked around a broken foot in kickboxing for a year, so I figured, what the heck. And so, it was kind of an interesting deal for me. Like I said, it was kind of the first time I didn't fight for me as I did for my brothers that put out all the effort. So it just turned out well.
Are you surprised that Tito went on to become the big star that he did? Could you see the potential in him when you were fighting him that night?
Yeah. I mean, he was a tremendously strong athlete, and I'm not used to somebody being, that's, to be honest, I'm usually I don't look it, but I'm pretty damn strong. And I'm usually not accustomed to guys being that physically strong that I'm going against. Tito was. And, and he was smart. He got, he got away from kind of the element that he was dealing with the Tank Abbott guys and got his own identity and got his own training. And, he did real well.
Without going into great detail, can you just sum up your feud with Tito Ortiz?
Yeah. Don't agree with a lot of things that he did and the way he did it. But, this guy was the pound for pound, the best fighter in the world during his time. And you can't take anything away from him. He had a great career. Definitely one of the best. And I had my feud with him. Unfortunately, I had it with him when I was 38, 41, and 42. A little bit long in the tooth. And he was in his prime. So it was definitely going into the fight. It was definitely a tall task for me to try to beat him. But I believe that if I had not come back and had those fights with Tito, UFC wouldn't be where they're at today. Would not have sold for $4 billion because they were dead. And if not for what me and Tito did and those feuds that we had, they would be where they're at.
Because I think your first fight with him set a record for mainstream media attention.
Every time we did it, it set a record. Every time I fought in the earlier days, I set records. Every one of my fights were bigger than the last.
So you finally buried the hatchet with Tito.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And why did they never grant you your last fight in your UFC contract?
Yeah, it's a lot of political stuff and a lot of law stuff. I can't go into all the details, but, it's unfortunate because it was more of a personal decision rather than a business and contractual decision. And they went against the contract. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, if you think just because you got a contract and you're in the right, you're going to win, you got another thing coming.
And you told me earlier you had a story about Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz?
Yeah.
Tito, everybody wants to fight Tito. That's because he built himself up to that level. Being called out is a compliment, so I was probably one of the guys that I didn't have to call him out, but they lined us up, tore my knee, fight canceled, and Twitter, Instagram, Tito posted that Mark Holmes is a sissy. Okay, well, I'm still sleeping because I am a bat. I'm a late nighter. I don't like the mornings. But my phone started ringing, and my manager had responded to him calling me a sissy, talking shit about his wife and kids and all this and that. Oh, no. I got nothing to do with that. Tito Ortiz, I'll call you a punk-ass douchebag. But I'm never going to talk about nobody's wife and family. I have no right to do that. Had nothing to do with it. But Tito did feel like I had something to do with it. My manager responded to it on this stupid-ass internet. I didn't know nothing about it, but he still thought I had something to do with it. But we had to do a 4-way, me, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, and somebody else with Jay Glazer. Just something we had to do out somewhere. And it'll be the first time I see him since, this shit came out. And there he is getting the makeup put on. And I said, fuck it. I'm going to go up and clear this matter up. And he looked over, and old Tito Ortiz looked over, and he was not expecting to see my face, but he see me. And he made a mean-looking face at me. He was not happy. You don't talk about a man's wife and kids. That's garbage. I mean, religion, all that shit. I don't know. You got to promote a fight, but you got to be careful. But I didn't say nothing about his wife or his kids, for sure. And I walked up to him. I said, hey, Tito, and I told him that. I said, look, I had nothing to do with that stupid-ass tweet or interview. I said, I'll call you a douchebag to your face, but I would never talk about your wife. So I left it in his hands. Make your move. I'm not saying make your move because I didn't expect him to make no move, but basically I had my hand held out saying, I'm telling the truth. Because Tito Ortiz thought I did have something to do with that stupid ass tweet. No, I didn't. Because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go that route. I ain't no better than anybody. But I can call Tito a douchebag because he is. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, look. Depends on who you ask. But no, he looked over and he thought about it for a second, and then he put his hand out. We shook hands, and we went and did our little 4-man podcast with Jay Glazer, and that's it. I don't have no problems with I don't know if people have problems with me, but as far as I know, as far as my feelings are, I respect everybody that attempts to get into that cage somehow, or ring, or cage, from amateur level to the fucking world championship. Hey man, that takes nuts and guts. And it's one hell of a feeling when it's over. Winning is much better, obviously. But if you got in there and lost and gave it your best and you're still on your feet, MMA can't beat it. Best sport ever.
Tito. Tito was on one of my podcasts, not the Conspiracy Farm, but one of my other podcasts that I used to do. And at the end of it, I basically spelled it out how it all went down, and he really didn't argue with me on air when we were recording. His account is obviously pretty flawed because he got KO'd by Lee Murray. So just tell you that. But one of Tito's good buddies, and I was friends with Tito at the time, so I had no reason to lie. I wasn't going to tell any lies about it. But Bo, his buddy, real nice guy. I felt horrible for him. We came out of the nightclub in London, and Bo jumped on my back, and he put me in a rear choke, but he wasn't choking me. I knew he wasn't serious, and I kind of almost knew it was him just because I'd been hanging out with him all night and joking around and stuff. So one of my fighters, Tony Fricklin, thought that Bo was actually choking me. So Tony ripped him off my back, and I could tell he got ripped off my back by the way I got tugged backwards. And then right away I turned around, and there's Tony and Bo face to face like this in front of me. And Tony's going, what the F are you doing trying to choke my coach? And right when Bo wanted to say something back to him, Paul, Lee Murray's buddy, Paul was the one that was one of the guys in part of the so-called biggest bank heist in world history. Paul, out of nowhere, who's a big dude, with a running start, blasted Bo with the right hand and launched him. And the alley blew up into a huge fight. So I'm standing there going, holy shit, I can't believe this is all happening. All out of a total misunderstanding. So Tony hadn't hit anybody and didn't hit anybody. I wasn't hitting anybody, but I watched Tito come running from my left, and he was doing this and ripping his jacket off, his leather coat off. And as he was running forward, I looked to my right, and there's Lee Murray backing up, doing the same thing, taking his coat off. As soon as their coats hit the ground, Tito threw a combo at Lee. Lee ducked out of the way of everything. I don't even think Lee was drinking that night, so it was an unfair fight to begin with because Tito was hammered like I was. But Lee got out of the way of all the punches, threw a 5-punch combo back at Tito. Every punch landed. Very hard punches, and Tito went down, landed on his face unconscious. And Lee started to punt him in the head with his steel-toed boots on. And now I'm friends with Tito at the time, and I also train Lee Murray, so I'm friends with him. So I don't want to see this. The fight's already done with, essentially. And I grab Lee and I say, stop, dude, get out of here. So he goes, all right, Pat, see you later. And he takes off. So him and his boys leave. And like, I don't know, 25, 30 British cops show up in the alley. All the bobbies with their tall, cop hats on. And they've got literally, some of them have fire extinguisher sized OC canisters. They're going to spray the entire alley down with pepper spray. And I say, who's in charge here? And one of them says, I am. And I go, maybe you don't understand how full of professional fighters, but if you start spraying them with pepper spray, you're going to have some serious problems on your hands. You're going to piss off some really scary people. And he goes, all right, you're in charge of clearing out the alley then. So I started telling everybody, get back to the hotel. And we got everybody out of there without getting everybody OC pepper sprayed and everything else. But what ended up happening out of the thing is Dana White calls me, starts yelling at me, what the F? You guys jumped Tito with your British buddies and all this other stuff. You guys beat him up. And I go, whoa. I didn't punch anybody. I didn't do anything. Tony didn't do anything. Tito got knocked out fair and square. He went after Lee. Lee knocked his ass out and kicked him in the head a couple times, and I saved Tito's ass by telling Lee to stop. So I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, well, I'm going to get the surveillance tape of that alley, and then we're going to find out what happened. And I said, good, make a copy for me, because I'm not lying. And nothing ever happened to that. Besides, nothing ever came of it. The tape never made it anywhere on YouTube or anything like that, obviously, probably because I was telling the truth. And also at the same time, the thing that pissed me off is Tito's lies caused a massive division between Dana White and I. It cost me a lot of money. It cost me a good relationship with Dana, and kind of started a war for me, because one of my fighters lost his contract. Tony Fricklin lost his UFC contract because Tito lied about that whole thing, and it was very bothersome. So I forgive Tito for that. I think that the truth has come out. I think enough people that were there. Chuck Liddell will tell you exactly the same story. He was there knocking people out left and right, trying to save his own ass because he had people coming after him. So anyway, that's how it went down. And Tito can say anything he wants to the contrary, but I watched it all happen.
What did you think about the Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell fight that happened this year or last year?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I heard it was a good fight, though.
Yeah. Ortiz got his win.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any interactions with Ortiz over the year?
I saw Ortiz on the bus last year at the Fight Fest, in Vegas. Him and his wife and 2 sons, very nice family, very beautiful family. Kids are well polite, well behaved, he was outstanding. I was just so impressed. Tito's so intelligent. I mean, he did that Celebrity Apprentice thing. He learned a hell of a lot, obviously, So I was just impressed with the whole family.
Your first Tito Ortiz fight, what are your memories of that?
Oh man, I just frustration, not really doing shit, shutting down. He actually caught me with a nice punch,
because I was standing so upright. And then I was like, oh, okay, we're boxing here. And then the second I went up to kind of throw back, he's a beautiful double leg. And I just, you know, I don't know. You're looking back, you say forward, like there's 1,000 things you could have done to get up. But at the time, man, he felt strong. And every time I'd do anything, he would land a nice elbow. So, you know, it was a rough one.
Bonner was telling us that he really didn't like Ortiz personally. Did you have anything personal against him?
I don't. No, I actually saw him. We're friendly. It's not. You know, we're never gonna get lunch together. His Amber Miller and my wife are still kind of friends. Me and my wife used to live actually briefly with her.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was always a good landlord, tenant, whatever. And, you know, I don't know. I actually ended up bumping into Tito in the elevator after that fight. And he was like really nice. And I was like, oh, wow, you were a real dick before too. I guess you're just playing again. You're selling fights, you know.
What are your thoughts on your second fight with Ortiz, and like how did you prepare differently for that one?
Well, that was a great story. I was on my honeymoon. We're up in, I forget where, but we're up in North South Florida. We drive down, and bam, 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 Dana White starts ringing. And I had like some garbage like in my hand as I'm filling my gas up, talking to Dana. And I turned that fight down in the beginning. And we were supposed to we were about to drive to Yosemite. And I was just like, I threw my old donut type Danish in the trash, and I got in the car and I drove back to Vegas. So I got cheated out of the second half of my honeymoon for that.
So I guess did that play a role in it? Like you better win this time if it's costing you half your honeymoon?
No. I mean, it was just a fun little matchup. It was a good little fight, you know. I thought he fought pretty well in that one, you know. I thought I was in a better place than I was.
And your third Ortiz fight, which was another victory for you, any memories of that?
No, that was a fun one. You know, it was a good fight. I wish we had a little more. Definitely frustrating for me because, you know, he's gonna start to fade with 2 minutes left. And sure enough, started to fade every round. 2 minutes left. And then I was just being a wimp. He was tired. He was sitting on the fence. And I took, in my mind, what was about 10 seconds to walk around, but, you know, just to kind of move out and just to kind of not really do anything. I was like, I still got a minute left to work. And, you know, next thing I know, you're out of time. There's 30 seconds left. And, you know, he started going harder. And I was like, oh, shit, you know, because I had an opportunity, you know. And, you know, it's like when you don't leave it all in the octagon.
If there was one guy you always wanted to fight and never got a chance to, who would it be? It was, well, Tito. You know, even when I first talked to Bellator, they were like, we're interested in you to fight. No, I'm not interested. Like, I'm not interested. I'm done. And then, well, we want you to fight Tito. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I always wanted to fight him. You know, and I thought too, you know, Tito, he's so dumb. He goes around, he used to be the Huntington Beach bad boy, but he turns himself babyface, and now he's the people's champ. And he's such a jerk too. Everyone that really knows him he stiffs everyone and not pays them and screws people over and backstabs. And I mean, yeah.
And training partners.
Yeah, coaches, training partners, managers. It's the same story. You know, he's a selfish asshole. And yeah, I've heard it from so many people's mouths. So, and now he's going around trying to cram himself as a baby face down everyone's throat. Like, it was like my perfect chance to turn heel, you know? And finally I'm finding, you know, before that I never really fought a guy I didn't like, you know? And finally I'm fighting someone who is a legitimate jerk. I know firsthand from a ton of people that he screwed over, what an asshole he is. I never liked him. I always thought he just had a huge ego. Every time he loses, he blames it on all the injuries, and you know, it's just a jerk. So it's like, wow, you know, now I could
turn heel, like let everyone know how I feel about him, and it'll be the perfect thing to blow this fight up. When I went into Bellator, they were all about, Coker had just come in there, and they needed something that's going to move the needle. They needed Bellator to get over, really. And I said, all right, well, you give me this fight with Tito, then watch, I'll move the fucking needle. And I did. It was like they went head to head with the UFC heavyweight title fight that night, and we crushed them. It was the most watched fight of 2014. So we delivered, and I went in there, and they said if I move the needle, and which I did, they were going to give me TV work and commentating, and I believed them, So I'm like, I didn't think, because Spike TV likes me. Obviously, I helped them out a lot. And, Bellator told me everything I wanted to hear about that. And I knew, as far as the UFC went, Dana said, serve your suspension, then we'll talk. And, I did. And he still, didn't, he wasn't letting me back on the team. I was hoping I could go back to work for him, but that wasn't happening. I'm like, fuck, why should I sit around here and be loyal if, my suspension's out? He said he'd be open to talk after I served it. I do, not giving me anything. What am I going to do? Just sit around and wait for the UFC? Or here's Bellator offering me TV work and commentating and main event fight. And if I move the needle, then they'll reward me with that stuff. And I thought, fuck it. I never liked Tito. I'll get people to tune in. I'll turn heel because he's, trying so hard to be a baby face that it'll work. People will want to watch it. And it was so oh man, when people
what was your idea, the wrestling style confrontation?
Well, yeah, the heel turn. I was with McCauley, and it was his idea to come in a mask, and then surprise him. He's not going to. That whole fight card, I met all these people. I meet Coker for the first time, and McCauley's sitting next to me in a mask, and Coker looks all worried. And I'm like, don't worry, Scott. Just trust me. I got this, And that was the plan. I just rip into Tito. I end with a comment on Jenna. He takes the mic. He stumbles on his words. He gets frustrated, and he attacks me. Worked out perfectly. What if he came back with something witty and didn't attack? It wouldn't have worked. So it really worked beautifully. And hey, there was a couple of great fights that night. There was a UFC that night, but all anyone was talking about was the fucking heel turn promo the next week. And a lot of people didn't like it, but you're talking about it, and it worked. So
what was the biggest difference between dealing with Bellator as a company and dealing with UFC?
Bellator just let me do what I wanted. It was I couldn't believe it. Even I get the call from my manager, what do you want for your entrance music? And a buddy of mine had just showed me that Stitches video of, the brick in your face. I put that brick in your face. What you going to do with I love selling blow? I'm like, this is ridiculous. The guy has the Stitches for Snitches tattoos up here, AK-47s, just looks like all the gold in his mouth. This guy looks like a freak. So I said it as a joke for my entrance music. I go, I'm going to watch, and Stitches is going to rap me out to brick in your face. And then Coker's like, okay, great, cool. And I couldn't believe it. There's no way Dana White would allow anything like that ever. So it's really? Maybe he just doesn't. And once he looks it up and sees who this guy is, there's no way he's going to allow that. And sure enough, he didn't allow it. And my buddy Scully gets Stitches on the phone. We make a deal, and I come out to Brick in Your Face by Stitches, and Tito comes out to a bunch of little kids pledge allegiance to the flag. People are like, that's like pro wrestling. Really? Really genius. Yeah. It sells.
So what happened with Bellator? Because I heard that you had a multi-fight contract, and you were just telling us that they were offering other jobs for you.
Because I moved the needle like a motherfucker. I sold that fight. His fight before, 336,000 people tuned into his fight with Shlemenko. That's nothing, right? And then they put us on a Saturday, which it's harder to get a higher Nielsen rating on a Saturday. I had that with the UFC, and we have like, can't remember the exact numbers, but over 2 million people tuned in. Most watched fight of 2014. And, I thought for sure they would hold up their end of the bargain, and they didn't. They didn't. I don't hear from them. And then I get a call. They want me to fight. It's like, fuck you. Dude, I moved the needle for you like I said I would. You're not going to you're going to act like what, nothing happened? Like you didn't tell me all that shit in there? Like, come on.
Now, as far as Tito Ortiz 2021, we've already heard his name last year. I guess he had that fight with Alberto Del Rio.
Uh-huh.
And he also had a WWE tryout that I guess he wasn't hired from, which is a bit surprising because they take people with a lot less credentials than Tito, but I guess he didn't quite make it. But what are your thoughts on everything that's been going on with him the past year?
Oh, I am in complete amazement. People don't know, but I got him into the show. His very first fight, he fought on some alternate match, and they needed somebody because somebody pulled out. And so they threw him in there, and he was like a scared little puppy. He actually started crying, and one of my guys that I used to hang out with, still do, he's a warrior at heart, little guy, but that doesn't change the way he thinks. He slapped him across the face and said, "Quit your crying. You're going to get out there and you just go out there and treat it like a wrestling match." And he slapped some sense into him, and he went out and beat up some little yahoo that shouldn't have been there. Another like Anthony Macias clown. Anyway, so he went out there and beat him, but he turned into the true colors of somebody's character comes out and turned into a scumbag. And people always say, "Oh, why are you so bitter about Tito Ortiz?" I mean, I'm not really so bitter, but I have personal interaction with the guy. He was training up as Bakersfield, and he basically went into my truck after asking me to borrow $500 from me. I didn't have it, and I said, "Sorry, if I had it, I'd give it to you." But I was up there wrestling with Stephen Neal, who is an absolute animal. He went off to play professional football, and he was the heavyweight champion then. And so I was like a blessing in disguise. Who gets to roll with the NCAA champ and top-notch guy? So I was rolling with him for a couple of weeks, and it was a good time. But I walk out after practice. We kept going, and then I walk out, and Tito's in my truck. And I used to drive the kid around, and he played the victim. That's his big thing. He's, "Poor me, victim. Do you know I was homeless type? My parents were losers. Oh, they were drug addicts," and all this kind of stuff. He's just, anybody that plays the victim role is just a con man liar. He's a modern day Beowulf, pretending that he's a warrior and everything else, but the truth comes to it. He's just in it for the glory and the riches. So ends up, I would drive him around, and he was always looking through my shit in the truck, and he would go in my glove compartment, my side compartments. Well, he must have seen I had an empty checkbook in there, and he went into the glove compartment. All you little Tito lover fans, this is the kind of scumbag he is. Took a check out of it, put it in there. When I walk up to my truck, I go, "Hey, dude, what are you doing in my truck?" This is after practice. And he's, "Oh, it's cold. I just wanted to say goodbye to you guys." I was with Paul Herrera at the time. And Paul's all, "Wow, Tito, what are you doing in this truck?" And he's like, "Oh, ha, ha." Well, back in the days, before you got computer printouts, they returned your cashed checks. So a month later, I fought Hugo Duarte, had a good time, was going through my checks. And there's one for his brother. I'm not sure about his family lineage, but his mother had brothers or children with other people, and so their brothers. I don't know if that makes you a half brother. It doesn't really matter. But he wrote a check out to his name. I'll leave the name out of it. And I was like, I thought it was for $500, and it was the day after he asked me for the money. So he took the check out of my glove compartment from his previous snooping. He knew there was a checkbook in there. He wrote it out to his brother and cashed it the next day. So not was it like a crime of opportunity. He had a chance to go home and sit on it and pretend and think it over, mull it over. Like, am I really that much of a scumbag that I'm going to take a check out of some guy that tried to help me out? I was trying to help the kid out. And cash it with his brother. I mean, desperation drives desire, but my Lord. And so at that point in time, I cut waves with him. And then there's another joker that tried to pretend like he was my manager. And he took him in. He always wanted to start all this stuff with me, like, let's do a clothing line. Let's do this. Let's do that. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm in it for, bro. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior at heart. And with all those kind of characteristics of honesty, courageous, integrity, all those kind of things, that's what makes me tick. I'm not like a scumbag like that, but this guy was. And those two got together and they would go to, no one even knew who he was. It wasn't even on TV, I don't believe. It might have been. They might have showed a clip of it. And he's pretending he's superstar, and they would go sign autographs in a trailer out in front of high school wrestling tournaments. And I'm like going, what does this clown think he is? And Eddie, my friend, is like, that guy doesn't know any shame whatsoever. And it's a true statement. And Eddie he's not one to mince words. But so that was the birth of this Tito explosion of trash, biological trash, fucking stealing not only checkbooks or checks out of my checkbook, but air from good, honest people. I mean, he is a dirtbag. And if you think I'm bitter, that's your problem. That's the truth. And yeah, you would be bitter too if I sat and I stole something of yours. He used to call me because he'd know I'd be down at the bar on Main Street. It's like a 10-minute thing. He'd call me at the bar, make sure I was there. Then he'd go over to my house and pilfer through all my stuff. He'd take things and like my booze and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, it was not worth me to get all worked up over. That's hard for me to do. But that's the kind of scumbag he is. So you guys can all worship him and go vote for him. For Huntington Beach, it used to be a great town. It's turned into a piece of shit with a bunch of fucking assholes that live there. And I'm here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where everybody here is cool and they're awesome people. And I'm glad I made the move. How's that for a roundabout way to one question?
Now, I'm working with a company now called SWE Fury. They're on TV in about 35 million homes. But just because I work with them, would you ever consider having a pro wrestling match with Tito Ortiz in a company like SWE Fury or another company? I know you guys don't like each other. And you never know what could happen at a pro wrestling match, but would you ever accept something like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, only because I don't know how professional I would be with him. I would love to knock the stuffing out of that guy. But yeah, no, he's not a very bright guy. I think everybody knows that. And I don't know if I would want to get into the ring with a dummy like that. I mean,
what did you think of his wrestling skills, by the way, in the couple of clips that he showed? And I saw the YouTube video, too. He was training with Norman Smiley, an old buddy of yours.
Oh, yeah. Good for Tito. I mean, WWE, I mean, I've never met Vince, and I've met a few of the talent agents and people like that, and they're not lining up to sign guys that has children with a porno star. And you know what? I think there's a Paul Herrera told me about this. There's a video of a homemade video of Tito. It's called Rug Burns. It's floating around. And I've said that I would love to get my hands on. There's these guys, they used to hang around downtown, and Tito was a hanger-on kind of guy of these people. And he's a star in his own little porno called Rug Burns that used to be passed around all the time. Remember those days, Tito? And it's floating around, so maybe, just maybe someday that'll pop up on the scene.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.